You're listening to The Foundation of Wellness, a refreshing take on diet and lifestyle, with Jessica Dogert, a registered dietitian nutritionist, and Marisa Moon, a primal health coach. Hey everybody, it's me, Marisa Moon. I'm your certified primal health coach and intermittent fasting instructor. And I teach people how intermittent fasting can help free them from dieting that totally sucks. We've all been there. We're doing things over and over, hoping for a better result. And really, it's not a sustainable diet or a diet that's going to help you have a life you really enjoy. And that's one of the reasons I totally love intermittent fasting. The way that I teach it is entirely flexible, and it's something that's just enriched my life in every way. And not to mention on a cellular level, it's got to be keeping me younger and helping my body heal like it's supposed to. So I can't wait to share with you more about intermittent fasting. In the meantime, you can find out more at marisamoon.com/ifreedom. On the show today, we're going to cover something that's a little bit confusing when you first dive into the world of holistic health and herbal remedies. Now, I know how it feels to be completely bogged down by natural health solutions at first when you start seeing ingredients that you can barely pronounce or recognize these names whatsoever, and you hear they're good for you, but you're like, gosh, where have these things been our whole life? Are you sure? So I thought it would be great to bring someone special onto the show that can help us understand what are adaptogenic herbs and which ingredients really deserve our attention. And I've got the perfect person for the job. Sage Dammers studied raw and superfood nutrition and traditional herbal remedies, especially Taoist tonic herbalism. Sage worked with and trained under the world's leading master herbalists and nutrition and longevity experts in Costa Rica, Australia, Bali, China, and of course, America. Sage developed products internationally, and he's given lectures on peak performance nutrition all over the world. Again, Australia, Bali, America, and France. And Sage's years of experience in this unique arena has allowed him to cultivate an unparalleled combination of cutting-edge nutritional and culinary expertise. Sage even started tonic elixir bars in 5-star luxury hotels in Paris and Sydney, Australia, serving longevity elixirs disguised as gourmet treats. And I have a feeling that's why he partnered up with his life partner, AnnaBlanca, to bring us Addictive Wellness. They make all these superfood chocolates and herbal powders because they believe that being healthy doesn't mean that you have to give up your favorite treats. I am loving this, you guys. I am already a huge fan. Their creations bring together the best of South American superfoods and Ayurvedic and Taoist tonic super herbs and cutting-edge holistic health science. And the goal for them with Addictive Wellness is to empower us and help us make the healthiest choices without draining our willpower and thinking we can't have all those things that we love so much, like chocolate. And Addictive Wellness is dedicated to sourcing each and every one of their ingredients with a ton of care. I mean, the world of superfoods and super herbs has a huge spectrum of quality, and they accept nothing less than the ultimate combination of purity and potency. And I can tell you that Jessica and I had the pleasure of tasting Addictive Wellness products, their chocolates and their powders, at the PaleoFX conference in Austin, and we were fascinated by Sage's knowledge in the world of nutrition and nutritional herbs. So I walked away from our conversation with a plan to get Sage on the podcast and with a box of their focused energy cacao packets to take home. I am head over heels for that adult hot cocoa mixture. I have been looking for something like that that's not full of sugar. It doesn't have any sugar in it. And it was like a dream to find it. Thank you, Sage. Welcome to the Foundation of Wellness. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for such a kind and gracious introduction.
Oh, you deserve it, man. You have been all over the world. How did we get so lucky to keep you in America?
It's the most exciting place in the world to be for health, I think. Having been in a number of different places, they all have a lot going for them. And, Europe is amazing. Australia is just incredible nature out there and a great culture. But Los Angeles really is like the epicenter of the health world. And it's where I grew up. So it was, kind of there's something that always can pull you back home. And I love the combination of different things that we have here in terms of it being such a great place to be into health, to have a health business, to be able to go surfing, go to the mountains, have nature around, but also be in a very productive city and be able to do lots of different things.
Cool. I love that. I get inspired every time I go to California. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in the Chicagoland area, and we are way behind, the health food trends, and just having access to really, forward thinking products like yours that help us cut out sugar from our life. We're just behind in the Midwest. California's got a good thing going, I have to say.
Well, yeah, different regions have different things going for them, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that you guys have going better and more figured out than we do. It's just a variety of different places, right?
Yeah, dude, I can't complain. I love it here. I do. I really wanted to have you on the show, Sage, because your products are addressing something that we all really crave when we start caring about our health. We feel almost depressed or deprived, like in order to meet our health needs based on everything we've just learned, that means we can't have pizza anymore, we can't have dessert anymore, we can't have ice cream and chocolate. And I see what you're doing there. I read the ingredients on your products and I'm like, how did this come to be? Because it's really answering the, desires that we have when we're looking for a treat. So tell me, like on a very surface level, for the listener, why did you create these products? Like, why should it matter to them to find a product like yours?
Well, to go a little bit back, when I was in my mid to late teens, from 16 to 18 and first starting to get into the world of health and nutrition, I got exposed to this mix of hemp protein and some other superfoods like chlorella and spirulina and some other Western herbs like, milk thistle and things like that a local guy in my community was making. And he seemed to be really full of energy and healthy and vibrant and young looking for his age. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Like, what could I do with my life if I really got into healthy diet and lifestyle? How would it extend my lifespan and also my ability to achieve things and have great adventures in life? So I started having this mix. And I didn't really care what it tasted like. It tasted pretty bad. And I didn't know what I was doing. I would get the blender. I would put a scoop of this protein herb mix, and I would do a banana and some Tropicana orange juice and some strawberries and blueberries and blend it up, and it tasted like dirt. And I would drink it anyways because I wanted the benefits. I was motivated. And I started to have this feeling after drinking it for a couple of days, like this incredible mental clarity and energy and awareness that I had never experienced before. And it just blew my mind and got me to thinking, if this was out there all this time and I didn't know about it, what else have I been missing out on? And so that kind of started me off down this rabbit hole of learning about other different things. And a few years later, I was on a surf trip with some friends in Costa Rica, and I would go out and surf for 6 hours and not need to come in and take a break. And they would be coming in after 2 hours, tired and needing to eat. And they would see me kind of off in the corner of our hotel room, blending up these drinks a couple times a day. And they would kind of not know what was going on, not know how to ask about it. And eventually they said, what is that? Could you maybe make me one of those? And I said, yeah, sure. But for them, the flavor was so bad and so overwhelming that they could hardly even drink it. And funnily enough, 2 out of the 3 of them kind of stuck with it and actually got around to living great, healthy lifestyles today. The other one couldn't handle it and just kind of stayed in that college world of, drugs and drinking and all that, and never really got past that. So it made me realize that if I want to help other people, right? Because I don't just want to do this for myself. If you're not taking anybody, with you in a beneficial direction, it's not nearly as fun or rewarding. If I realized I was going to share this with anybody else and have a real impact, I would have a lot more luck if I could actually make it taste good. And especially if I could make it taste just as good or better than the unhealthy alternatives that they would be having otherwise. So it was around that time that I learned how to make chocolate. And it really opened my mind to thinking, wow, chocolate, if it's done right in a pure form, it can be such an incredible health food from the standpoint of the antioxidant levels, which is the highest natural source of antioxidants, highest natural source of magnesium, great source of things like chromium and zinc and other bliss chemicals like anandamide and theobromine and serotonin, and phenylethylamine, which is the love bliss chemical. It's what gets secreted in your brain when you're in love, and it's also found in chocolate. That's why we have chocolate on Valentine's Day.
Nice.
Because it kind of contribute to those love feelings. And then chocolate is also a vasodilator, meaning it's going to drive the herbs into your system and you're going to improve absorption, and an MAO inhibitor, which is a complicated way of saying that it allows the herbs to stay in your body and keep working for longer than they otherwise would.
Wow.
You have this substance called MAO, monoamine oxidase. And after a substance has been in your body for a certain amount of time, MAO is like the bouncer at the club. It says, okay, we're closing down, last call, and kicks it out. Monoamine oxidase is like the bartender who's friends with you, and he says to the bouncer, no, it's cool. He's doing a good job here. He's helping me clean up. He's a nice guy. He can stay around for a little while longer. And so the substance in chocolate actually allows the herbs to stay and keep acting in the body for a longer time.
Whoa, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's amazing how synergistic it all is together. So it got me to thinking, okay, we can put the chocolate and the herbs together. And I was healing from candida at the time, having been on antibiotics throughout my teen years, for skin conditions that I didn't have the knowledge of how to deal with. If you can make a chocolate that's raw, it's sugar-free, incorporates all the best herbs, this could be really something amazing, kind of like a gateway health food. And so I just kind of had it as a hobby for a number of years, and would share it with some friends, and everyone would say, well, when are you going to turn this into a business, and where can I buy this? I want to get it all the time. And eventually, as my herbal knowledge got better and my culinary knowledge improved, and with AnnaBlanca's help, we really kind of got it to a level of I don't want to say perfection, but feeling like it was really at a great place. It felt like, okay, this is ready. Let's turn this into a business.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, we want it, and I'm glad you made it.
Thank you.
I'm a huge dark chocolate fan, and I'm always trying to get like 80%, 85% dark chocolate, and I'm spreading the word, make sure it's organic or, thoughtfully sourced so that you can protect yourself from a lot of mold toxins or contaminants. And then to add on top of that, make sure the sugar is not too high. Otherwise, it really is something you only want to eat 2 squares. I don't know. I don't eat 2 squares of my dark chocolate. I eat half of a bar.
Yeah, and that's when I was first getting into that world and was trying lots of other raw chocolate products. I was loving it because it was, as I was first getting into health, hey, here's something I can still really enjoy and have as a treat. But there was the problem that I wanted to eat more to get the benefits of the raw cacao and other things that were coming in with it. But at a certain point, it just got to be too much sugar. So, at that point, I was just thinking, like, how can you make this into something more functional and also, that would be helpful for somebody who's dealing with candida or parasites or any other kind of sugar sensitive conditions.
Well, you nailed it. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So when I was reading the ingredients on your chocolates at your booth, I was like recognizing a ton of them because I'm really into medicinal mushrooms and adaptogens now. But there was also another half of them that I did not recognize at all. And that's when you started just sharing all the information that you have. So why don't you just take us down to the basics and tell us what adaptogens are and why you use them in your products and which ones are a good place to start with.
Sure. So the term adaptogens was actually coined in the mid-1900s, even though people have been consuming adaptogens for thousands and thousands of years. But it was coined by a Russian doctor who, during World War II, his name was Dr. Nikolai Lazarev. And he had worked for the government studying the Russian government, studying different chemical stimulants and things to enhance the battle performance of soldiers and things of that nature. But after the war, he turned to things that could be more supportive of overall human health and longevity. And he started out studying ginseng, coming from China and Korea primarily, and also regular tea leaves. That was kind of his entry into the world of adaptogens. And eventually he wanted to find something that would be more easily sourced within Russia, so that Russia could have something domestically sourced that would allow them to compete with the incredible endurance that the Chinese soldiers had from the ginseng they were consuming. And so that came in the form of what is called Siberian ginseng or eleuthero. It doesn't actually have any relation to ginseng, but they just called it that because it has a lot of similar properties in terms of its, cognitive benefits and energy and endurance enhancing benefits. But as I said, these have been around for thousands of years. Whether you're looking in India, in the Ayurvedic system, and you look at herbs like mucuna and ashwagandha, shilajit, which is a mineral pitch being secreted out of the Himalayas. Holy basil is another great Ayurvedic herb, incredible for stress, for testosterone levels. And then you can go over into China and you get the Taoist tonic herbal system. Now, in the Taoist system, they have an interesting way of looking at herbs. There's multiple levels. There's essentially 3 levels of herbs in their system. There are poisonous herbs, and this is what you give to an enemy to poison them. Pretty self-explanatory. Then there are medicinal herbs, and these are herbs which you take for a short period of time to treat a particular disease or ailment, and then you stop taking it because long-term there can be some negative side effects. This would be, for example, like taking something like an immune stimulant, which you would just take for a short period of time, something like golden seal, for example, right? You're not going to take that, or echinacea. You're not going to take every single day, but you take it when you're first getting sick because it really stimulates the immune system into action. But if you are with any function in the body, if you're just stimulating all the time, eventually there's nothing more to stimulate. It's like if you are drinking 10 cups of coffee every single day, and that's your only energy source. You're not resting or getting good nutrition, or worse, if your energy source is cocaine, right? Pure stimulants. It's not a long-term solution.
Is maca something that falls in that category?
Maca, if it's had in a raw form, interestingly, is a mild stimulant. It's not extreme like these other ones. It doesn't contain these substances like caffeine, or like, obviously there's no cocaine in maca. that would be really funny. But with maca, if it's raw maca, it is a little bit stimulating, and there can be some long-term negative side effects, as shown in just a couple of animal studies. There's not a huge body of research on it. But if you have maca in the traditional form, which is called gelatinized maca, where it's been heat processed to break down some of the starches, make it more bioavailable, easier to digest, then it becomes more of a tonic. And it's also, as I said, a lot easier on digestion. Because
is that the third category, tonics?
Yes. So yes, that's the third category. It is the tonic herbs. These are also known as the superior herbs, and they have to build one of the 3 treasures that form the life force in the body. And we can get into what those are in a moment. But there's several requirements. They have to build at least one or more of the 3 treasures, and it has to be something that you can take in small amounts on a regular basis over the course of your life without negative side effects. To build this incredible foundation of radiant.
We want to learn about those.
Yeah, absolutely. And to give a little bit more framework, I just want to explain this 3 treasure theory because it gives a framework that makes all the herbs much easier to understand.
Okay.
Mentally categorize in a way to look at your health. So the 3 treasures are Jing, Jing, Qi, Qi. A lot of people have heard of that one, and Shen. And they traditionally use the metaphor of a candle to describe these. I also use a little different, maybe more easy to understand financial metaphor. So the Jing, this is something that you inherit from your parents, depending on how healthy they were. We've all known people who they try to live a healthy lifestyle as much as possible, yet they're always sort of struggling with their health. They didn't inherit this great state of health from their parents, who maybe going back a few generations were not living so great. And then we also know people who inherit a lot of this Jing from their parents. And then they're the ones who can eat McDonald's and smoke cigarettes, and they still seem to be doing okay. And they make fun of all of us who actually go through the trouble to live a healthy lifestyle, saying, look at me, I'm doing just fine. Drinking beer and smoking cigarettes every day. And that's because they have this deep kind of reserve to tap into. This is your health reserve. It's your core kidney adrenal energy. When people talk about, adrenal fatigue or HPA axis dysregulation. In the Taoist perspective, that's Jing deficiency or Jing depletion. And this is kind of like your trust fund that you inherit. Some people luck out and get a big trust fund inherited from their parents. This is your energy trust fund, and it becomes your savings account, right? Some people have this big savings account of energy. Some people are living paycheck to paycheck when it comes to energy, just waiting for that cup of coffee every morning to keep them going. So that's your savings account of energy. And there's certain herbs that work on that. Things like cordyceps, eucomia, Hoshu Wu is a great one. If you look in Ayurveda, like Shilajit works on that. They call it an Ojas tonic, but Ojas is basically the Ayurvedic word for a Jing in their system. And then we go to the next treasure, which is Qi. This is your checking account of energy. It's what you are replenishing on a regular basis. It's said to be the energy you get from the air you breathe and the food you eat. So you're constantly in the process of recharging. Now, if you don't have enough money coming into your checking account every month, you have to dip into your savings. So then if you don't have enough Qi, you're tapping into your Jing to keep you going. And that eventually becomes bad news, because if you're not replenishing your Jing, it's going to run out as well. And then you're in a state of real health problems. So Qi, you get this from certain herbs, things like astragalus. Cordyceps is also a Qi herb in addition to being a Jing tonic. Ashwagandha, coming from the Ayurveda system, it's a prana tonic. Prana is kind of the Ayurvedic word for Qi. And then you also get it through practices like Tai Chi, making sure you're sleeping enough, doing breathing practices like the Wim Hof method or other, different yogic breathing practices can really help with this. And then you have the third treasure, and this is what's called the ultimate treasure. It's called Shen. And this is your higher self. It's your spiritual self. It's the light in your eyes. It's your spirit. And this, you can think of it as your, once you have a great savings account, once you have a great checking account, what are you going to do next? Then you establish a nonprofit and actually help other people. It's your ability to spread light in the world and have a beneficial effect on others. Now, if you are struggling in a state of health, it's really hard to actually have the energy to go out and help other people. But if you've taken care of yourself, if you've built up your adrenal energy, if you have great moment-to-moment daily energy because you're sleeping and you're drinking good water and you're eating good food and exercising, then you actually have enough energy to share in the form of helping other people. So you want to start looking at building your Jing and using herbs and lifestyle practices for that. And then you work on your Qi. And then once you've got all that energy finance sorted out, then you can actually have this beautiful Shen and the ability to really help others.
So you're saying we all need to focus on our Jing first, no matter who we are. If we've never worked on that or made sure the foundation is right, that's where we need to start.
It's a great starting place. I mean, you can kind of do a little bit of self-inventory on how you're feeling. If you have a past where you've really depleted your Jing through working too hard, stressing too much, drugs, alcohol, poor diet, these things all deplete your Jing. And so if you have a history of that and your energy is not great, and you're exhausted and all the time and relying on stimulants to keep you going, starting with some of these Jing herbs. Another one is like Romania, is known as the kidney's own food in the Chinese system. It's a great way to go. We made a chocolate just specifically with herbs to support the Jing. We call it recharge chocolate because you got to recharge that deep core energy. And then you can progress from there. Not that you necessarily have to go Jing, Qi, Shen in that direction. You can take herbs that help all of them at once. Like Schizandra berry is an amazing one. Also reishi mushroom, which a lot of people are coming to know these days as they get into the world of adaptogens and medicinal mushrooms. Reishi is amazing because it decreases stress and anxiety. It's not a sedative at all. It just kind of gives you more of a feeling of inner peace. It improves energy and endurance, and it's also supportive of the kidneys. And there's this kind of roundabout benefit of when you're decreasing stress, your kidneys and adrenals are going to do better because you're not depleting your Jing through all the stress. So it's kind of a well-rounded system.
It's interesting to hear you even talking about our kidney health, because I think I could speak for most of our listeners, unless we are, in late stage diabetes or getting really old, we're not even thinking about our kidney. Is our kidney healthy? We're not thinking about that. So why is that such a foundational thing to pay attention to?
Yeah, and I should clarify when I say kidneys, often I'm referring to the kidney organ system, as the Chinese will look at it, which is not just the kidneys, the two organs themselves. It actually encompasses a number of different what we would consider in the West organs. So it's the kidneys, it's the adrenals, it's the bone marrow, it's the brain. So it's actually a collection here, and that these are where the jing is stored. Like you've got your bone marrow. This is where you're storing your reserves of stem cells. So that's a part of that core vitality. But why are the kidneys important as a Western individual organ? They play a big role in detoxification and filtering things out. And a lot of people do run into kidney problems down the track, and they can have a heavy burden placed on them as we age. And they're one of the things that have such an easy solution. A lot of times people can benefit their kidney health a lot by using activated charcoal. If the kidneys are impaired or they have diminished kidney function, activated charcoal performs a very similar function to what the kidneys themselves do in terms of the filtering out of toxins. And so it can actually take a lot of burden off of the kidneys for people who are dealing with issues.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got you into this because we're trying to talk about adaptogens, and we learned a lot so far. Thank you. I just am wondering, people like Jessica and I are just attracted to anything that says adaptogens on it. And we're thinking this is a good trend. How do you feel about the trend? Do you think people should be seeking adaptogens wherever they can?
Yeah, it's something that I think it's more than a trend when it comes down to it, because it's been happening for thousands of years. It just finally happens to have made a certain level of penetration into our American health world. But you could go to China 70 years ago, and you can go into shops and buy reishi mushroom and cordyceps right on the street. It's all over the place. So it's wonderful that we've gotten this exposure to it now. But even in the U.S., it's been happening since Ron Teagarden first made tonic herbs a big thing back in the 70s. So it's been around for a while, but it's getting finally, a degree of the attention that it really deserves because of these herbs' ability to help over the long term. So many different health fads, whether it's veganism or the carnivore diet or the celery juice, they all help to an extent for a short period of time for certain reasons, a lot of times because they're cutting out lots of processed foods, or just starting to get in some real good nutrition. But long term, they're not really designed for long-term functionality, and they can have some downsides and things that can trip people up if you don't know that the obstacles are there, or that there's certain holes in different diets and things like that. But with adaptogens, these have been used for thousands of years for this exact purpose, to be done in small amounts on a regular basis over the course of one's life. So not every adaptogen is going to be perfect for every person. Ashwagandha is one of my absolute favorites. But if you have an overactive thyroid, if you have hyperthyroidism, it's not a good idea. If somebody has blood clotting disorders and they're taking Coumadin, ashwagandha, also not a good idea. So it is important for people to do some research on what the contraindications of a certain herb might be, especially if they're taking medications or have a serious health issue, because nothing is going to be perfect for everybody. Even when it comes to foods, a food that is great for 99% of people, maybe there's 1% who have a sensitivity to something going on in there. So,
well, before sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
It just reminded me. Yeah. There's a couple of questions I have about adaptogens. Before I gave up on my regular caffeine habit recently, I was taking rhodiola rosea every day. Is that an adaptogen?
Absolutely. It's one of the greatest.
Okay, well, everybody has great things to say about it, but I realized it was too stimulating for me. I guess at certain doses it can have a relaxing effect, and certain doses it can have a stimulating effect, because I had a rapid heart rate, and it was further exacerbated by my caffeine habit, which soon I dropped after the rhodiola. But as soon as I dropped the rhodiola, my heart rate, normalized much more often. So can you tell us a little bit about the lesson that I should learn there?
Absolutely. It's good to understand, as I mentioned, not everything is going to be perfect for everyone. And as you experiment with these different things, chances are you'll come across one that doesn't work for you. I'm also somebody who rhodiola is not a great fit for. For so many people, it's amazing. But I happen to have a gene called the COMT++ gene, which has an effect on the way that I detoxify certain neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine and epinephrine. And it's kind of, I won't go into the full story of how that gene works. It's kind of a long story, but if you have that gene, rhodiola can be a problem. It can make you feel great in the short term, but then after that, it can actually irritate your nervous system. So not everything is going to be perfect for everyone, but it gives you a great opportunity to learn about your body and become more sensitive to how different things are affecting you. So whenever someone's trying a new herb, I always encourage them to be on an empty stomach. Don't eat for like an hour before at least. And, eventually you can use herbs in all kinds of things, and chocolate and cooking and different elixirs and smoothies. But the first time, it's a great idea to just take like between 2 and 4 ounces of hot water and take, depending on the herb, maybe a quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon, or for very sensitive people, even like an eighth of a teaspoon, and mix it in with this hot water and just drink that alone and kind of spend a little bit of time, sitting still, not doing anything necessarily, and just pay attention to how it makes you feel. And that's kind of like you going on a first date with the herb. If you're going on a first date with somebody, you don't want to go to like some big crazy rave where there's so much else going on. You can't really, get to know them and see, well, what is it about them that is making you feel this way? Or is it just the wild party? You want to like a nice private dinner.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You get to know the herb one-on-one.
One other thing that I often forget and got a little confused by regarding adaptogens was that some of them you're supposed to cycle on and off of. I believe that maca is one of those. And can you tell me why some of them you're supposed to do for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or something like that?
Yeah, so it also will vary depending somewhat on the person and their state of health and what benefits you're looking for from the herb. Maca is one that does have a little bit of stimulating property to it. As we mentioned before, it lessened very much if it's a gelatinized maca. There's still a little bit there. So you actually get more benefit from that one if you cycle on and off. Most herbs are not that way, but occasionally you do run into one like maca that you get more net benefit if you go on and then off.
Okay, cool. Thanks for explaining.
No problem.
Now, I know you're really passionate about sleep optimization. Is there something you want to teach us about holistic health or herbal remedies regarding our quality of sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much that goes into building the ultimate night of sleep. And that's, really a whole podcast interview in itself.
Yeah.
Again, one just all about that one of these days. But it starts, from the moment you get up, getting sunlight within the first couple hours of the day is really key. And then doing some cardio exercise in the morning, then weightlifting in the afternoon is the ideal timing for most people in terms of exercise to maximize sleep quality. But you don't want to exercise within 2 hours of going to bed, because then you're getting yourself a little bit too ramped up. And as I mentioned with the light, it's so important. In the evening, you want to limit your exposure to blue light, because blue light, as we get, and it's not just like bright blue, but most of the lights we have in our homes and our computer are of a blue hue of light, which is designed to mimic sunlight, which sounds cool. But the problem is, evolutionarily, you're not getting sunlight at the nighttime. You get that during the daytime. What light you get at night, if you're in a hunter-gatherer society, you're under fire, getting more of a red color of light. So there are apps you can put on your computer, like Flux, or there's built-in apps sometimes now that can turn your computer to a more red color at night. Like I know at my desk I have a red LED strip that I turn on at night, so it's like everything is just lit up all red. On the phone, there's a way you can go into the settings, and we have a tutorial for this on our YouTube channel people can check out, where you can you can set the settings in a way so you can tap your home button 3 times, and that will turn your entire phone red at night. So you can look at your phone and do whatever work and texting and things you need to do, but you won't have to be exposed to this blue light that suppresses melatonin. And then in terms of herbs and supplements you can take in the evening, reishi mushroom is a great one. Holy basil is great. These are amazing herbs that are going to be bringing down stress and anxiety, helping you to feel more peaceful. They're not so strong as things like, say, valerian or taking melatonin, that would be more sedatives. But they are just bringing down that stress, quieting the mind, just getting you a little bit out of your head. And also you can look at things like magnesium is a great one, especially two forms of magnesium that can be really good. Magnesium glycinate is a very bioavailable form that also doesn't upset the gut. Some people, taking things like magnesium malate or citrate, they get a bit of gut disturbance. And then also magnesium L-threonate, which is a kind of magnesium that was just developed a few years ago that has a unique ability in terms of magnesium supplements to cross the blood-brain barrier. So you can actually elevate brain levels of magnesium, which not only helps with your sleep quality because it's like relaxing your whole nervous system, but it also has anti-aging benefits for the brain. So that's another really great tool. And of course, trying to get a good cycle going every day where you're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, so you can get a real strong circadian rhythm established is really going to help you just kind of develop this groove. And if you stay in it, it's smooth sailing.
Awesome. I can personally attest to these solutions you've shared because I was dealing with chronic fatigue years ago. And the most critical changes I made were developing a sleep routine that was very strict so my body could get on an optimal clock, a natural rhythm. And I use a sleep mask now and earplugs. I have to every day. I have to limit my exposure to my cell phone or my laptop at least 30 minutes before bed. Right. So no scrolling on my phone in bed, or I notice it keeps me up an hour longer. So those are awesome tips. And reishi is something that I consume regularly. I always look for dual extracted, which I noticed the Addictive Wellness form is dual extracted. There's a lot of reishi powders out there, or reishi, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, that are not dual extracted, and they have cool bags and nice labels, and it looks like, wow, this must be good stuff. But really, you don't realize you're kind of wasting your money because you're not getting the full benefits. Is that right?
Absolutely. And there's many forms of reishi, as you said, out there on the market. Some are just powdered mycelium. And people say that mycelium is very bad. But it really comes down to bad mycelium is bad. Now, we sell a dual extract reishi, to be clear. But mycelium, usually it's grown on a gluten-free grain medium. And lots of companies do it very poorly and cheaply. And so the actual finished product ends up being primarily grain. They didn't properly allow the mushroom to metabolize the grain and turn into mycelium. Now, there are some higher quality mycelium products out there. And basically what you have to look for is if they test for alpha glucans and beta glucans. Beta glucans are the mushroom compounds. These are the immune enhancing compounds found in medicinal mushrooms. Alpha glucans is a sign that you got a lot of grain in there. So you're going to ask the company, do you test for alpha and beta glucans? And ask those results. And then assuming you're going for a mycelium product. If it's wood grown, you don't have to worry about this.
Okay.
The ultimate, though, is wood grown because that's how these mushrooms would grow in nature.
Yeah.
Right? Reishi grows on dead trees. It's different than ground grown mushrooms like portobello or button mushrooms that just grow out of the dirt. This is like a higher class of mushrooms. And some mushrooms just get water extracted. And for some, that's just fine because there's not a lot of alcohol soluble compounds that we're after. Some herbs, the vast majority of the effective active compounds you're looking for will come out into hot water. And that's just fine. But for other herbs like reishi, you really want to get dual extracted because reishi also has this other class of compounds in it called triterpenes. And we talked about the beta glucans, the immune enhancing compounds. Those come out into a water extract. The terpenes are more of the adaptogenic compounds that balance out so many different functions in your body, help to bring down the stress, balance your nervous system, regulate so many hundreds of functions in the body. These are not very water soluble, so you won't get these from a water extract, but they are nicely alcohol soluble. So you have this water extract, you have the alcohol extract, and then you combine them. And that would basically be a tincture, as you can sometimes get. And then there's the other option at that point to just spray dry it into a powder. And that's how you get a dual extracted powdered reishi.
Like yours. So
Exactly.
How does somebody use it? Because personally, I found it to have a strong taste. I think a lot of people agree reishi has a strong taste. So I would put it on my low sugar ice cream or put it in a smoothie. But if somebody's using it before bed, what's the best way to use that loose powder?
Right. So reishi is one of the strongest, and it's a good sign if it's strong because the active compounds you're looking for in reishi, those beta glucans, those, when you isolate them, are extremely bitter. So there's an old saying with reishi, the bitterer, the betterer. So the more bitter your reishi is, the more effective it's going to be. If your reishi tastes like a graham cracker, it's not going to be very effective. You don't have a lot
had one like that.
Yeah. So my favorite way to do it, my little nighttime drink that I like to do, is I take 4 ounces of hot water and I do a quarter teaspoon of ashwagandha powder and half a teaspoon of reishi powder and just stir them up in there. It's a little bit bitter tasting, but it's only, 4 ounces. You don't have to drink too much. And those are 2 amazing stress relieving herbs to take in the evenings before bed. I really feel a lot of benefit from those two together. And with reishi, though, there's so many ways to use it. You could, we have a product called the Cacao Elixir Blends, which is like you can blend it with hot almond milk or a cold almond milk for like a chocolate milk kind of a thing, like you would have in like elementary school. And we've got reishi in there because reishi and cacao flavor combine so well together. The flavor profile of cacao kind of has this ability to block or mask the bitter flavor of the reishi. So it's a great combination together. So whether they're doing it with that or just, making your own hot chocolate or chocolate milk at home, great way to do it, or even in a chocolate smoothie is another option. And you can blend it in with a variety of different things. So just want to experiment with it a little bit to see which flavors of things that you make it will work with, and the flavor just doesn't work together, and you might just want to have reishi as a little, shot on the side.
I totally agree. Reishi and chocolate go perfectly together. I loved blending it in my coffee in the morning. So obviously that's not going to work for anyone looking to use it before sleep, but I like your idea. Just a little bit of hot water. It's almost like you're making an espresso shot with the reishi powder, and you can add a little stevia to that, and it shouldn't interrupt your intermittent fasting or, your insulin while you're sleeping. So that's a good thing. Now, before we wrap up, Sage, I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest seller for Addictive Wellness, the one that people come back for again and again and again?
Yeah. So it used to be energy chocolate. For the first couple of years of our business, it was energy chocolate, and tranquility chocolate was always number 2. And I would always joke with people when they asked about it, and I would say, everybody wants energy, but what they really need is tranquility. And everyone would laugh and just kind of go on and buy the energy chocolate. And then the 2016 election time came around, and suddenly tranquility chocolate became the most popular, and it's been that way ever since. So,
interesting.
So tranquility chocolate seems to be the medicine of most demand for the wild world we live in today.
Cool. And I noticed that you have this really unusually awesome option where you can have an interest-free payment on purchases over $35 from your website. Yeah. So I can buy something there and I can make monthly payments on it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, some people like to just, do normal payments, but for some people, maybe they're, buying a gift for a family, or it's the holidays or whatever. So we partnered up with an Australian company called Afterpay, and they arrange it for, you'll have 4 interest-free monthly payments if you want to.
That's cool.
Get a bunch of chocolate all at once and spread out the pain for a little bit.
I love that, because I know for our listeners too, we're giving you new ideas every single week, and you're like, gosh, I can't try everything I want to try. And sometimes something like chocolate or a chocolate mix could feel like, it's not a necessity, but if something like that has been missing from your life and from your wellness routine, you are going to find it to be a necessity, not really something that's a luxury. Because for me, I've been searching for a hot cocoa or an evening coffee chocolate sort of drink, because I wish I could drink decaf after 4 p.m., but I can't. Even decaf gets me tossing and turning at night. So your cocoa mix was perfect. I only need about a half packet, and with some hot water, or every once in a while I'll throw some cocoa butter in there or coconut oil and blend it in the blender. And man, you guys did something right there. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah. And part of the reason we offer those payment plans as well is that we offer like free shipping over $50, or, some of the bundles of products we offer some good discounts on, and it makes it easier for people to go for those. If maybe they would not want to get so much at once necessarily, but if they can spread it out and then get the savings of the, the bulk discount, it helps.
So smart. So your website is addictivewellness.com. We have a 10% off code, right? It's FOW podcast, I think.
Right. That's it.
Great. So I will put everything in the show notes for you guys. You can learn more at Addictive Wellness on Facebook and Instagram. Of course, their website, and you have a YouTube channel, I just heard you say. Right. Is that right?
Yeah. YouTube.com/Addictive Wellness. And we put out lots of educational videos on there. Hopefully everyone will enjoy it.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on the show, Sage. And one of these days, we're going to have you back to talk about energy, because boy, are we all confused and we're exhausted and we want more of it. So
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.